We can note the differences in our world as time goes on, whether it's our houses, which are now commonly shoeboxes stacked on top of one another, our jobs, our salaries, our privacy, and every other aspect of our lives. In the new world, you exist in a digital world, confined to arm's reach from your smartphone, surveilled to keep you safe. The old world is gone. Welcome to the new. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Let's talk about this today. What your future will look like. There's many different avenues it can go down, but let's look at some of the possibilities which are already happening right now. It simply needs to spread. Let's begin. Would you stay in a hotel with a stranger? Marriott is set to introduce communal rooms for up to 16 people that share a living and dining area. Now, some people do the communal setup where they live, dorm rooms and others, and they're very comfortable with it, and it seems to be a way to reduce costs. If somebody wants to do this, I believe that they should be able to. I don't see anything wrong with it. However, if people are impoverished and as a result they need to share a living space with many people in order to be able to survive, we have ourselves a problem. It was just, 1970. I have the statistics in my book. 1970. Easily, you had one person working, and they were able to have their car, their beautiful home, everything they needed. One person working. And the home cost just a fraction of what it does today in relation to the salary. Not in nominal terms, okay? So times have really changed in that regard, there's no doubt. And yet, these living expenses have become dramatically higher. Look at the introduction of the micro lofts. You are also seeing these tiny homes popping up everywhere. In fact, it's been so intense that there's TV shows based around the tiny homes, living in houses that are literally just 100, 200 square feet sometimes. And as I said, totally fine if somebody wants to do that. But if they literally can't afford what you would call a conventional sized home because everything has become so expensive or their wages just don't keep up and all this, then we have ourselves a problem. Okay, let's move on quickly. This right here, it might be a little difficult to see. I'll use the highlighter here. WeLive. Okay, so this is essentially a dorm room, is pretty much what it is. And right here, they make some descriptions. Beds and couches, towels and linens, everything in between, community-driven common areas, full-time concierge and housekeeping, and access to the events that they have, okay? 55,000 members, apparently. So there's apparently 55,000 people who have signed up to this. And everything is shared. So you can have your own private space if you're willing to pay for that. And then they also have the communal areas. And what this does is it basically reduces costs. Just like that dorm room, you have, your TV area, and there's a bunch of couches, and you have the towels and linen service, for example, as they talked about. This right here allows it to be all streamlined and sort of have this operation going where you pay one fee per month and everything is taken care of for you. Perhaps you're too busy. Perhaps you simply are working 2 jobs. You don't have time to do all this other stuff. You basically are never home anyway, so might as well just have a place that you can just go, you crash, and you wake up and you go to work the next day. That's what's happening. But you're working 2 jobs for what purpose? What is all of this for? I mean, look, 1970, I mean, in a way, it is a while ago, but when you look at it in another way, what has happened since? The economies of pretty much of most countries have been destroyed. It's eroding. It's not being destroyed in an explosion. It's an erosion. That's what people don't see. They don't see it because it happens over generations. But don't be fooled by it. All right. This right here. Okay, so from a document out of the European Union, what we're talking about here is very simply the introduction of new types of facilities, buildings, zero energy buildings. Okay, let's focus just on this right here. By December 2020, all new buildings are nearly zero energy. And then after 2018, new buildings occupied and owned by public authorities are nearly zero energy buildings. So they're implementing this just around the corner. They have to be zero energy. What if they don't comply? Well, probably have to pay money to the government, the taxation system. And part of this, I had read that it would be in part due to all of this climate change and everything else, that you would not be able to have single family dwellings. And what that means is essentially you would have to have condominiums, apartment building style, whether it's the communal type facilities that I just showed you. That's what this is all about. It's getting you to get used to a different type of living than just a few years ago. This happens to be, I don't know if it's all of the EU or just Germany, but regardless, it's taken over all over the place. Peak car. Australia's love affair with ownership fades with the rise of the car sharing services. Now, we've got them here in Toronto. I know they're basically everywhere now. And car sharing services, like, for those who don't know, it's essentially you rent the car, but you can just rent it for an hour. So you go to parking lots around the city. You'll find a car parked there. You can use your phone app to unlock the door. You drive it around. When you're done with it, you could basically park it anywhere. And you push this button on your smartphone, and it signifies that you're done with the service, and they charge you. It's an interesting method of doing this. It's for people who don't have a car. Now, as I said, it was only a few years ago where everyone would have that house and that car and to be paid for, and there'd be no problem. Today, different story. People can't afford it. Why? Because in Toronto, for example, if you want a parking spot, never mind the car, just the pavement to put that car on, you're probably going to be looking at about $30,000. That's right, $30,000 for asphalt. Then you buy a car to put on top of that. Maybe that's another 20 or 30 or 40,000, depending on what you want. So the expenses are astronomical when you factor in the insurance. You must get insurance, of course. And these insurance rates keep going up and up. People are thinking, you know what, forget it. I use my car a few times a week and it's just not worth it. I'm just going to rent the car when I need it. I'll spend, $50 a month and it's a much better idea. So that's what's happening with this. The rental economy is taking off. Then you have this. Vizio smart TVs tracked viewers around the clock without consent. Essentially, what they said was, look, we were just aggregating the data. We weren't necessarily, picking out that and connecting it in with who you were specifically. So they say, but it really doesn't matter because we know it's all being tracked and databased by the NSA. At least the NSA. That's what we found out. But of course, this manufacturer has to pay $2.2 million for doing this, but the NSA goes way deeper than this and nothing happens. Nobody gets in trouble. Anyway, we are always being surveilled. That's part of this new way of living, the new world. All right, then you have this. 2 trends which have been growing significantly over the years. This shows you approximately a 10-year chart, I believe, almost 10 years. And what we have here, house for rent. House for rent consistently rising over the years. People can't afford to buy a home anymore. It's not just the big cities of, for example, Toronto and Vancouver, which have had astronomical rises in their prices. It's not Manhattan necessarily, San Francisco. You're looking at many, many cities are really struggling with this as a problem right now. And what happens? Rents rise. It's a simple matter of fact. And then car leasing. Essentially, their leasing accounted for 27% of all car purchases in 2013. It's huge, definitely huge, that people are simply not buying cars. They're leasing their cars because they're unsure what's going to happen in 3 years. I don't know. I don't know if I'll be employed. I don't know what the economy is going to be like. And essentially, you also have the fact that the leasing is cheaper than the financing generally. And then we have this. What if you can't afford to live? What are you going to do? Well, you're going to stick your hand out to the government and say, please. Well, the idea of a guaranteed basic income for residents of Ontario was the focus of a discussion in City Hall. Now, I'm reading you this article. It says Ontario, but this has been going on all across the globe. I've done videos about it before. Kitchener is one of the 14 communities discussing a pilot project that could see a basic guaranteed, remember these words, basic guaranteed income replacing Ontario Works and the Ontario Disability Support Program. So essentially, it's a way to reduce poverty, so they claim, improve health, housing, and employment in Ontario. So whatever you do, you decide to go to work, you decide to stay home, you decide to do anything, they are going to give you money. Sounds great. Sounds excellent. Wow, free money? I love it. It's a genius idea. Except who's paying for that? Well, of course, you are. You pay to yourself, you pay to your friends and everyone else that is on this system. And it's ultimately going to be something that will be taken up by different cities and could be adopted on a global scale. When jobs are destroyed, let's move on to this one, happens to be Amazon. When jobs are eliminated, which that is the goal right here, Amazon will utilize technology to minimize labor, a source close to the situation told the Post. And that's the goal. Essentially, this article was talking about Amazon. I showed you the Amazon store, which basically is completely automated. You just scan your Amazon app from your phone. You walk in, you pull stuff off the shelf, you leave the store, and it automatically will charge you. No human interaction, God forbid. So what you have here is automation taking over jobs. That's a matter of fact. And this here is showing you that they want to expand it. It was just one little tiny store, had only a few items, but they're looking into expanding that to, I think it was 4,000 items or something. So it would be a much, much larger scale. They want to try that as well. Of course, it's going to be a lot different in the dynamics and everything, but they'll have only 2 or 3 employees there, just making sure everything's okay. No theft or anything like that. That's pretty much what they're for. So this is going to be a drastic change in supermarkets should this take off. That is something that, cashiers and managers and all the people who are stocking the shelves and everything else, you're going to have a lot less people needed. And that's when the guaranteed income comes into play. People don't have jobs. What do? You have welfare, social assistance programs, and you can simply just give it across the board. Everyone gets a bit of money. And if you don't like it, if you have a problem, if you take it to the streets, you will be met with force. And this is just one example of how quickly things can escalate. Unrelated, but just showing you as an example. Brazil's president on Monday ordered 200 troops to the southeastern state of Espírito Santo, where a police strike in recent days sparked a wave of violence, including what is already believed to be dozens of murders. The military on the street is the ultimate goal of any tyrannical, totalitarian system. I'm not saying that that's what's happening right now in Brazil. That's the ultimate goal of any of them for all time. It's music to their ears. It's sweet, wonderful desires that they go to bed and dream about every night, these globalists, hoping and praying that violence will spark so that they can bring the military on the streets, call it martial law, and have the people be instilled in fear for generations to come. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. Last but not least, if you found the video informative, I know you will find my book, The Money GPS, even more informative. Look, you can head to Amazon, where you'll be able to actually flip through the pages of the book and see if you like it. Take care.